Hello everyone, this is Madhu from AdiYogiAyurveda. I wanted to come on today and speak about judgment versus unity consciousness, because that is something that has been coming up in my life and in society as a whole. I feel like, from what I have learned through my experiences and from various different ways, judgment is when you take a stand for something, against something. You like something, you don't like something. So that is kind of how we identify with the world in 3D, or using our ego identity. So it's a good way to differentiate, but at the same time it could be something that is detrimental. It could be keeping us from seeing the bigger picture. So I feel like when we are experiencing the world, judgment helps us to know the differences between things. So this is that, this is this, and it helps us to discern, to use discernment. But then when it gets to the point where it's unnecessary or too much is when we use it to judge others in a negative way, create separation. When you create separation using judgment, then people become different from you. Then people become your competition, your opposition. People become who you like or who you don't like. Then at that point, others are not able to live their life and have their experience and make their experience their own. So we are essentially interfering in their life with our judgment. That's when it becomes detrimental. One of the conversations we were having at work today with my coworkers was how, all these agendas coming up that influences children. So, and one of the things is homosexuality and transgender, all those things, and they're very politically driven. And it's like the people who actually go through these situations, they have a hard time because they're like, okay, I don't fit in anywhere, or like, how do I put myself in a place in society? And my thing is, people should be free to do what they want to do and who they want to be without having that fear of judgment. Whereas, the agenda driven viewpoints are like, it seems like, oh, it's a cool thing to be, fun thing to be, but you cannot tell a straight person to be gay or a gay person to be straight. That's both not allowing a person to be who they are. So it's like, it's very difficult to explain that concept to people, because of these political agendas, everyone is very defensive. There has to be the words have to be used carefully, correctly, whereas it shouldn't even be an issue, because this is not the first time in history we're having people like that, or people like, or like, it's just like they have been in existence, just as there have been the existence of humans, as far as I think. It's just like it's just part of life. It's just how it is. Coming from a more traditional country, I feel like in traditional countries, they're allowed those, like, you know, people who seem like different from the normal, as people would call it, they're more they're allowed to be who they are more than I feel like in a country like here. To me, it's like you're almost daunting how they're put on the spot. Whereas where I'm coming from, it's like, yeah, they can carry on their identity, but then they're still treated like a person, like another person, just a person with their personality, a person with just like everybody else. I feel like that segregation creates separation, which is something that is not needed, because I feel like we're all human. We're all here to have an experience, and no one has the right to judge. So yeah, they may be different, but they're allowed to have that experience. And just even being a spiritual person, it's different from the norm, but we're all allowed to have that experience. Like, I don't own a TV, and that's different. A lot of people look at me like I'm crazy or like I'm weird, but that is my experience, and that is how I choose to live my life, and that is how I want it, and that is how it is. So when we moving out of the judgment is allowing people to be who they are, allowing people to do what they want, allowing people to express themselves in a genuine way, and sharing their experience with our own, and just, it's kind of like uplifting each other instead of putting each other down, would be the unity consciousness. That is being, it's, you know, the word tolerating is also somewhat demeaning, because the word tolerating is like, oh, you shouldn't be that, but I'm tolerating you because I'm a nice person. No, allowing people to be is the correct way of being, I think, because that is you celebrating uniqueness of each and every individual, and accepting everything as it is, as part of life, as part of the universe, as part of our experience. Because if everything is the same, it's boring. And I know there's a lot of political agendas going on, and there's a lot of ways people try to influence children, which is what concerns me the most. And that's sad, because a lot of people don't even understand how. One of the examples I can tell you is the subliminal messages that are in cartoons and these kids shows on TV. And when I talk about this to people, they don't even get it. They don't even understand how this affects people, how this affects children. It's almost as if children at a young age are told that they're unworthy, like sexual objectification and sexualization in general, when it shouldn't happen until they're ready, or until it happens naturally. Then this low self-worth leads to different issues. in their life. And obviously I've had things like that too, because I felt unworthy. Sometimes you can't have proper relationships. Sometimes you can't relate to people properly, or understand and empathize with people properly, or think of yourself less than who you are, and then you feel like you're not good enough. Then what do? You don't want to shine. You don't understand, like, people won't like, when you feel unworthy, you don't understand that you have unique talents that other people don't have. Then what do? Try to be part of a group to define you, and then maybe that group's ideas are not the same as yours, but you just go along like sheep because you want to conform to an ideal, because you feel like who you are genuinely is not good enough to be accepted by others. Then you go seeking approval from different people, from people who will not give you approval sometimes. Then you take abuse, you take people putting you down, you allow others to be a doormat. Yourself to be a doormat for others. And what happens? Your self-worth drops and drops and drops. Then at the end of the day, what you came here to contribute, your talents, your skills, become buried within, because you feel like nobody wants to hear about it, nobody wants to know it, nobody wants to know about it, or there's no value in it. Value is basically not really identifying with something, but just understanding your own value and its uniqueness. You don't have to connect to a group or be a part of something, or be opposed or be liked or anything. It's unity consciousness is accepting everything the way it is and being okay with it. And that's something that I've come to learn over the years. And obviously every day there's always a new layer being opened up. But just as a tree is a tree, it loses its leaves during the winter, the leaves come back in spring, and the cycle continues. Just like the animals, like, they just continue and they just be who they are genuinely. So just like that, the humans, why can't we also just be genuinely who we are and follow our genuine passions and really be true to ourselves? That means embracing our own sexuality and our perfections and our imperfections, and loving our body as it is. Obviously I'm also working on completely loving myself, but it's a journey, and just being who we are. And that's very important, because I think when we judge ourselves, we judge others. I think when we embrace that loving like that kindness towards ourselves, and understanding that it's okay to be exactly who we are, that is very genuine to our soul, like that resonates to the soul level, where we are extremely happy doing what we like. And I think everyone have that freedom to be who they are and exactly whatever they would like to be. It could be you like to do crafts, you like to skydive, or something as boring as people consider just reading a book, or just sitting under a tree, it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, if everyone is happy, that's how we create a better world. That's how the world becomes happier and better. And it all starts with ourselves, within us. And that's the gift I have received from the Spirit this week. The gift of learning to look within myself for the happiness, and really enabling myself to uplift my energy, my vibration. And then my inner reality is then reflected in my outer reality, where I'm able to influence people around me to be in a better mood, to be more loving, more kind. And I know that one of the things that I've heard of, I forgot who said this, but I know it's a Chinese philosopher. He mentioned that water over time is able to cut through stones. So something as gentle as water, I think it's Lao Tzu. It's not Lao Tzu, it's Lao Tzu. Something as gentle as water can shape stones over time. So there's nothing that the gentleness and loving way of being cannot do. It's just a matter of time. Violence creates more violence. Love can turn violence into love over time. So that is the message I wanted to share with everyone today. Thank you so much for joining. This is Madhu from AdiYogiAyurveda.